And the church said, Amen. That's a lot of fun. So I was at the Hills for a long time as the praise team's walking off, and I haven't had like a get up and preach in a long time. So that was a little different. I theologically uncomfortable all of a sudden, but that was good. Nice. Love it. Don't clap about that. That's a weird thing. We are so still Church of Christ. Okay, so if you are visiting, you are in a great place. I am also visiting, and I want to say this publicly because I heard your preacher say, and I knew Corey back in the youth ministry days. Now he's been demoted to a pulpit pastor, but back in the day, he's a truth seeker and truth sayer, and he said, if someone invited you here, take them to and it's good. All right. So I'm going to get a free lunch. Everybody agree? All right. Amen. Woo! All right. So now we're having church. Again, if you're visiting, it is so awesome to be here just to visit. Now, when I was probably 18, 19 years old, I was in a chorus group for Lubbock Christian and came here and sang in your old building when Hal Elrod and Ronnie and all those guys were here. Hal used to be in Lubbock. And Danny, his friend, were in Lubbock. And I was 21. My friend Eric was 21. And they left. I mean, Hal just left. We were 21. They're like, you have the youth ministries in Lubbock. And we're like, we're 21. He just left and came to Houston. But I saw him in December and told him, I said, do you remember when you left us? We were like 21 years old. Eric is still the youth minister at Monterey. And that's where I go. And Eric and I do camp together. And we're old. That's just so weird. You didn't clap for that one. That was weird. That's a long time. So over 35 years in youth ministry. Sort of plotting church. Yeah, sometimes you wake up and you're like, how am I still walking? I do have weird aches and pains. But I want you to go to Deuteronomy 6. A few years ago, I am Dr. Fraze in another world, and I've been studying youth ministry, teaching youth ministry. My doctorate's sociology, psychology, theology together. Got that in 2004 or whenever. In the summer of 2007, I spent months on a research fellowship out in Pasadena at Fuller Seminary. If you're familiar with the Fuller Youth Institute, there were like two people. It was Kara and Brad at the moment, and a lady named Irene, and we started looking at the idea of why people stay attached. I mean, how do we disciple the next generation? And at the core of that, and this was very comfortable for us as Churches of Christ, because we have students in our main auditorium. That's odd, by the way, for big churches to have that. But at the very core, and I went back to it, is Deuteronomy 6. And without knowing, it always informed my ministry practice, but especially over the last 20, 25 years, we go back to a concept that is at the very core of the Old Testament law. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. The way that I read that for years was, that's to mom and dads, right? Mom and dads are supposed to do that. But nowhere in here are parents mentioned. This is, church, a message and a call and a command to us. It's the community. Now, if you're a younger parent, I'm going to shock you a bit, okay? All of you adults in the room, let's go back when we were kids. How many of you were spanked or beat by somebody else other than your mom and dad? Just raise your hand. Yes. How many of them weren't even related to you? How many of those people went to your church? Oh, yeah. It's like everybody had open season. And our parents didn't say, how dare you yell at my kid? My mom would say the weirdest thing. She would just simply, if somebody called her and said, by the way, Lena, I spanked your son, she would say, thank you. We turned out all right. What a great world we lived in, because today, working with students over the last 35 years, especially in sports, as I'll talk about. Why are you talking to my kid that way? Why are you doing this? And we still need to be able to say as a community, thank you. So if your kid is having trouble spiritually, and this is research too, let's go to the guys, Smith and Denton, that are up there at Notre Dame. They've been studying this forever. They said mom and dad are the number one impact of a student's life. Right underneath it, just this much, is the surrounding adults. Way down here are people like me, and way low is culture and friends. What are we afraid of? Culture and friends. So what we talk about today in a proper standing in athletics and really any kind of competition, it starts with you, it starts with the surrounding adults, then the rest of us. Amen, church? Because it's a different world. Well, Dave, how do you know this? Let me show you some pictures. These are kind of fun. So I've spent a lot of time in youth ministry. I've coached at a private school some. I'm now coaching, I'm on the staff at Friendship High School, the little Southwest Conference. I also work with the Dallas Cowboys, starting my third contract, 5th season with the Youth Football Academy. I did not play in the league. Look at me. I don't have that body. I do have a picture of Rowdy up there, just because I like to tell the story. Rowdy likes to, when we get through with skills, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders come out. By the way, just funny. Let's stop for a moment. Okay. If you have a 9th grade boy and you're trying to teach him football skills and the cheerleaders come out, you're done coaching just for a little bit. And that's very professional, fun ladies. But on game day, when we play our little game back and forth and have the Dallas Cowboy football experience, Rowdy comes by everybody's team like, hey, can I play quarterback? I'm started to say no, because the first time I let him do it, he threw 2 picks. And I lost a lunch bet with the coach I was playing against. And it's bad, but great experience. And it's been the last 15 years of my life, not only doing ministry and working with studying culture, I've been involved in high school football at a high level. So 2-6A, if you watch Friday Night Lights, that's our district, the little Southwest Conference. And I'm proud to say for the first time in a number of years, our team, who started 0-10, when we got there, it's 3-7, we built ourselves into district champions. This year, we beat all 2 teams, Midland High, Odessa, and Permian. It was awesome at their home. So that was good. You can apply for that. That was a lot of fun. I consider myself very balanced because of a lot of mistakes, at the same time just being involved in it. Where's my coaching friends? Anybody out there? Raise your hand if you're a coach, if you can, if you don't want to be singled out. Yeah. You don't do this because of the stipend. I'm just telling you, there's something that you do because there is still, this is one of those things I believe, in competitive sport, if we do it right, it's still a chance to love a kid deeply, to have expectations and teach him something about life. What I do with my athletes, and I do it with the students at LCU, basketball, cheer is a sport, all of those people, right? And I would even say if you're in band or theater, anything you can compete in, if you learn how to do those things right, you learn how to live life better because there's life principles. Competitive. So we did beat those 4 teams. My granddaughter lives in Midland. My son's in the oil and gas field on the cleanup side. And it was her birthday, and I missed her party because I was speaking in Arizona. So I drove down Tuesday to go take her to supper and just have a fun time. And I went home and changed into my friendship clothes because, don't laugh, but it was fun. I'm just like, they know. That's a weird world out there because there's dirt and there's oil and gas and there's football. It's just like you see in the movie. So I just walk into Blue Sky Restaurant where I know there's jerseys of the other teams, and I'm just doing this, and everybody's giving me the evil eye. And this is recorded, so this is bad. And I love those coaches over there, but I didn't post the picture on media. But my 3-year-old granddaughter, we stood in front of a Midland League jersey and went, and that was good. I love sport, and I love winning, and I love competing. But do you remember the idols in the time of Moses? Have you ever thought about this? Charlton Heston, worst acting, but you got to go there. Have you ever considered what the people of Israel saw before the idol? The plagues, the pillar of fire, the destruction of the army through the Red Sea. And they go all the way to Sinai, and Moses is gone for 40 days, and they make a golden calf. What's up with that? I mean, honestly, Vacation Bible School people, all right? And if you're visiting, those guys who you've been learning puppet shows and stuff about the golden calf, you don't have any puppet shows for this. This doesn't make sense, does it? Have you ever wondered in the back of your mind, why did they do it? Raise your hand. If you have. How many are like, I don't really care, keep moving on? All right. If you want to be cynical, I'm sitting there thinking, did it really take 40 days for them to make a golden calf? What's up here? Well, first of all, they were under stress. They needed something tangible. They were getting weirded out because Moses had disappeared in this cloud of fire and lightning, and they heard rumbles, and they already heard the voice of God. And God said, if you get close, I'm going to kill you. They're looking and trying to figure out, who is this God? So in their fear and uncomfort, they created an idol. I want you to listen to that process. In their fear and uncomfort, they created an idol, and they reached out to something familiar. Have you ever wondered why it was a golden calf? Next slide. If you visit Egypt, one of the greatest museums there, it's pretty amazing. You will see the protected goddesses, Hathor and Meret, goddesses to be among the oldest worshipped in Egypt. And if you look at the timestamp, it's the same timestamp of where the Israelites would have built the Valley of the Kings. They reached to what was familiar to them and said, maybe this is those. They didn't just pull a calf out of nowhere. They're like, maybe this is something that'll bring us comfort when we're afraid. Now, if you're a coach, you understand athletics has gotten crazy. The way my friend and I put it is competitive athletics is broken. It's the first line of the book. Because when people get stressed, when they feel like they're out of control, and you've seen our culture, we just had an election, we reach to something we feel we can control. I don't know how I'm going to get to my kid to college. So you have to get a scholarship. You have to do this in theater. You have to do this in cheer. You got to make it the next level. I don't know how we're going to pay for this. People are freaking out, and all of the stress and pressure falls squarely sometimes on the shoulders of our young athletes, and we call it character development. But it's our stress that we're placing on our kids. Look at this. Rings. This blew me away. I know that we give a lot of trophies, and I'm not one of those, hey, you breathed today, you get the championship ribbon. No, I'm not one of those. You know, I did do upwards basketball and upwards football. I didn't do well. I literally got in trouble doing upwards football because I thought it was all right to blitz people. And it was, Jesus ball is weird for me, but I like it. It's a good first step. And you're like, Dave, you're making jokes and things. We don't have troubles here. If you go to the men's bathroom right back here, there are busted paper towel holders. And I'm like, where did these dents come from? We have a gym over there, and I'm like, whoo. Upwards is getting competitive. We love to compete, and there's things that are going, and there's this weirdness. But on these rings, I finish up at the Star, and you know this because you live in Houston, but in Dallas, if I leave the Star at 4 o'clock and I go down to my gas station that Jerry owns at 2, and you go down there and you say, okay, I'm going to get my coffee, I'm going to get on the road, I'm going to go the other side of Weatherford before I stop for food, I can get home in 4.5 hours. Pretty impressive. You know how that works. Well, I didn't make the trip to the other side of town very fast this last year because when I went to get my cup of coffee, there's a kid against the wall with just a huge ring. Bigger than most of us get if you're in college going, look at my ring, a huge ring. And I'm like, he's 6. What? If this is the top of everything you do, and it's like going, I got a ring when I was 6 years old. What? It's hard to get one of those. It's hard to win. I'm sitting here thinking, are we losing something? We're winning, but have we lost the true reward of athletic involvement? So my friend Monica and I, here's a picture of her. We believe competitive athletics still has many benefits when we approach it the right way. I believe that. Monica was a D1 athlete. She hurt her ACL incredible sprinter. Both of us work in the Exercise Sports Science College. She's full-time. I'm just kind of an adjunct. We teach graduate sports psychology. It's kind of a fun experience. When she was working through, and I want you to hear this, I was her content expert. I got my doctorate before hers, and she asked me to be her content expert. And here's how this book was written. Now, if you've ever written anything, I can't believe that I'm an author because I don't really like writing, but it just happened. And so for her, I'm like, we're going to do something special because her graduate professor, when we got through with her evaluation on her final project, I said, okay, she said, when are you and Dr. Fraze going to write a book? And I'm like, So without asking, I just said, hey, give me your CV. I approached Leafwood and I came back with a contract. I said, sign this. She just got through finishing her dissertation. I'm like, it's going to be great. It's due in 6 months. So we wrote this in 6 months, and it came naturally because of all the experience of working with athletes, and it's a cool product, and I think you'll like it. It has some of the voices of pro, college, parents, everyone, especially in the very end, athletic directors. I think it's going to really help you with your life, your athlete, and as a community. But here was her topic. See, we did this with D1. Now, she was the first one to do research with D2 athletics. And here's what we found out. As coaches, as players, we know how to build athletes. They eat better than we do. They stretch. They work out better than we do. We have sensors we place in the back of them so we know exactly how many miles they run. The receiver that you'll see here towards the end, he runs 8 miles a game. And we know it because we got data on that, so we know how to make them rest, know how to make them lift. They have people like me that works on their minds. We can produce the most out of an athlete. That's called athletic identity. But do you remember Michael Phelps? What happened when he got through playing? Swimming. What do you call it? Is that what you see? You're not playing, you're swimming. The dolphin guy, he's incredible. He started doing weird stuff. He started doing like pot and stuff. You're like, why are you doing that? You see with a lot of players. My friend Ryan, who's one of the, he's a campus minister at the Dallas branch of the Hills. He's the one that we worked together to develop what we call the Character Coach program. And he was at Colleyville. I was at Richland at the time. And he was the one who started Soul Squad for Brent Venables at OU. So we worked together on all these things. Well, when he was an athlete, he was, for all you Texan fans, he was the second overall draft pick of the Texans when it started. He came out of Kansas State. He went to Bill Parcells' Jets. He came down here. He had the money. He had the position. Then he left here, and he was going to be Quincy Carter's blind side. But him and Quincy got to partying. He has on, when you look at his Cowboys record, it just said no accolades. He got hurt. He couldn't rehab. So he ended up in a closet with a gun about to take his own life. And he just cried out to God, God, if you're real. And his daughter walked by the closet, and it changed his life. And when we first started meeting each other and talking, I heard his testimony at an FCA gathering and how God had changed his life. But when we go into places and he starts talking about his struggle with identity, you can hear a pin drop. Because as we found out in that research is what we've done, we've made such great athletes that they actually foreclose their human development. They don't know how to be normal because all they've ever known is how to be an athlete. So instead of getting the most out of athletics and saying this is also how it helps you be a good person, we have individuals that stop playing it. They don't know who they are because all they ever have been is an athlete. Now, let me put that a little bit different because we have younger parents. One of my pet peeves is when I go to a Little League or Pop Warner and you see coaches yelling at little kids. I'm a big believer you teach, then yell. It's different when you have older kids and they know what to do and they deliberately don't do it. One of the greatest things you can do is just stress down an athlete because they can separate developmentally. Dr. Fraze speak here. They can developmentally change and split from who they are and what they're doing. And it actually works. But have you ever heard of shaken baby syndrome? Would you ever just take a shaken baby and do this? When you yell at someone who is not developmentally appropriate, and I'm going to say junior high down, and you're just yelling at them, they can't separate who they are from what they do. And all these coaches, like, I'm teaching them character. You're teaching them how to be a jerk and not love the sport. They're like, dude, I'm playing Coach Fraze here today. That didn't help anybody. But when they can separate who they are from what they do and a voice is raised, it could be one of the greatest gifts your son or daughter ever gets, because they realize they're not that special and that their actions do what? Hurt everybody else around them. It's great. Okay, I'm going to stop preaching and go on. I love this quote. This guy, Mark Robato, 60 plus years of age. He's been a head coach in D1, D2. He was a special teams coordinator at ACU. Now he's our defensive coordinator. Brilliant guy. He gets his own page, and you see how old he is by the quote. Play for the love of the game, for the fun, for the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. There you go. That's how old he is. Not to get a scholarship or make the all-city or all-state team, or even the starter on your team. Play to get all the wonderful experiences and emotions only sport can give you. Play so you can feel alive. And that's a competitive man right there. His players consistently go to the next level. He's not an easy coach, but he places things in proper perspective. But when we live in a world that's so crazy, like, well, sports is going to be my way out, and you grab for it, it can become an idol if you're not careful. And for all you young athletes, if your sport means that much to your identity, you're not going to play very well. But if you can somehow lower that sport and raise something else up and then pick your sport up, you'll be incredible and the best you can be. All right, let me give you some practicals. The book will give you more. And by the way, I don't go places to sell my book. It's kind of cool. They did that. I just want to let you know. It's weird. He's still buying lunch. All right, balance. I love Simon Sinek. Here's what he says. There is no decision that we can make that doesn't come with some sort of balance or sacrifice. Please hear me. If your kid has decided to commit to cheer, band, theater, decided to commit to football, whatever it is, there is a sacrifice and a balance that needs to be made. That is expected. That is great. The way that I say is that your identity, if you decide to wear this jersey, be involved in this, your actions are already determined. And then your feelings, right? So your identity leads to your actions and then your feelings. There has to be a balance and a sacrifice because you've decided to do this thing. Everything we love, you have to do this. And I'm also one of those old school parents. I let my kids help me decide what they want to be involved with because that was their decision. But here's old school. If you start something, you have to, yes, that is a great deal. So my son, I hang around with a lot of baseball players. I've helped on the coaching side. I don't like little balls coming at me. I just not that deal. My son was playing baseball, and somebody hit him in the head with the bat. I mean, I always told Lisa, my wife, don't come on the field if something happens. Just don't do that. But it had that gushy sound, and she was in California, by the way, and I'm just sitting there watching. Go, son. And you're this, and I'm like, whoa! We all run, game over. Little League, it was funny. All the kids are crying. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault. It was a great experience. Now, Braden had 2 black eyes. Crazy. It all worked out. But you may think I'm crazy and a mean parent, but after he healed up, you got to go back and finish. One of the greatest things ever happened to him. Now, was the coach going, throw away from his head? Don't, just stay away. Yeah, but he finished. Why is that important? Because we still need kids to have grit and they have strength. Just finish. That was his only appearance of baseball. All right. Let's look at what God says. The God of the Bible demonstrated a pattern of balance in the first chapter of Genesis. Why? Without rest, humans fall out of balance. We need to illustrate this. We don't need to illustrate the truth because how many times, like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, and it's not a matter of quitting because you got hit in the head. It's a matter of I haven't had a free weekend, I haven't had a free night, I'm just exhausted. I wrote this chapter in Jordan. I did 3 weeks in Jordan, a beautiful experience, doing some archaeology, biblical archaeology in Kerbet Iskander, and I'm at a coffee shop, and let me just say my Jordanian friends know how to make black coffee. It was the most amazing thing. And it's beautiful in that culture because you have a Sabbath in that culture and everybody celebrates and slows down. And I think about what happens to our culture in America. Nobody slows down. There's a guy who was the first trainer at Abilene Christian who goes to church here, and we have friends, Wes Kitley. We just texted him, and we were talking about this. He has done sports training. He's done therapy. He's worked with the Houston, whatever that basketball team that's not the Mavs. This one, the Rockets. And we start talking about the idea of overuse. This is the highest level guy. And it's like, dude, people are just getting injured because there's no off season. We were not built for running ourselves into the ground. We need rest and balance. And if you're part of an established program, our strength and conditioning coach, which spent 20 years at Texas Tech and trained Kingsbury and Patrick Mahomes, he's the first one to tell these guys, he goes, you do what I tell you to do. Do not go to the gym after this. And old school's like, well, you got to put in more work. And those kids end up with ripped pecs, ripped arms, because, well, more's better. Not always, and especially up here between their head. They lose the sense and love of the game, and they stop playing because they just need rest and balance. But somehow, because of our anxiety, we reach for that golden calf. We're like, no, my kid needs more. Just some practicals to look at. Here you go. 1, choose select teams and elite training opportunities very carefully. Very carefully. If you pay me $2,500, I will tell you your kid's good. Now, there's some great training programs. You have one here. And it's funny, he was shaking his head. He totally agrees. He played in the league. He helps people get to the league. But he works with professionals on the other side that you know, like, hey, let them help you decide which is the very best, because it's still the American dollar. And when we coach they're about to walk in and coach with pro players, a couple of us, I did not play in the league, look at my body, a couple of us are in high school, and you see people as hundreds are lined up to come and learn football skills from the Cowboys, and you're looking over here and this guy has, I don't know, full pads, middle of the summer, doing drills that don't even articulate to what needs to happen anymore. And parents are out there taking pictures, and you're like, what are you doing? First of all, you're going to have a heat stroke. That's on you. Get off the property, please. But right there, you're like, what are you doing? But it looks good. But we got to be careful. Our kids. So choose very carefully. Trust your gut and resist pressure and fear-based decisions. Adult peer pressure is real. As a coach, you probably hear this kind of stuff. Well, they already know who's going to play because this kid was on this little team and select team, and this kid and this worked up here, and all these kids are blah, 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 blah. There's not a magic list as far as I know. When they go to high school, we kind of know who the players are, but it's always a moving target. And most of your big programs, we don't really care how much money you give because we're not going to get it anyway. So it's amazing. Also, practice and model balance in all areas of your life. How in the world am I supposed to get my daughter, who is in theater, my son, who is in band and sports, how do I get them to take a day off if I don't? If I don't have time to just sit down and have a family supper, how am I going to ask them to do the same? Just sit down and breathe and be still. So we have to practice that balance. If you want balance, it's top down, right? Because we're the ones that impress upon our kids what the important things are. Let's talk about failure for a moment. And to talk about failure, I want to show you some of the greatest playground equipment ever invented. Go ahead and look at this. Yes. All right. Way too many young parents. Let me tell you what would happen back in the day. I think this is up in New York. If that's King of the Mountain, mad respect. You see that kid way up there? Does anybody see a teacher? No. Because this is what happened in my school. Anything that was dug out of 35 East was placed in our playground. Large concrete tubes of whatever. And we played King of the Mountain up there. And I was a fat little kid that couldn't dunk down, so I did bing, my hair so many times. It's all right. Where were the teachers when we were swinging back and forth and there's no ripped up tire to land on? It's pure dirt. And we had stickers where we played football and we liked it. Everybody was just, and let me tell you, okay, they would literally do this. All you young parents, be shocked. This is why we all have CTE. What they would do, they would throw a ball out in the middle of the field. Do y'all remember this, guys? Just make up a game. I still remember freshman football. All of our sub-varsity coaches went to go help Neil Wilson at Louisville High School, and they gave us a football and said, 45 minutes. And we just started tackling each other, going crazy. We were bleeding all over. Nobody called the office. Nobody stopped it. Principal's like, those are some tough boys. That's just what you did. And so when we were fat little kids and just kind of swinging and tackling each other, doing weird stuff, where were the teachers? They're over here by the side of the elementary school smoking their cigarettes. It's going, Fraze, get off that. Oh, there he goes. I hate that kid. And then they'd run over there. And this thing, the merry-go-round. How many of y'all love the merry-go-round? Okay. I want to talk to my fat kids. Here's what happened. We were usually the pushers, but every once in a while, you tried to hold on, but your weight just, and the greatest thing, when your feet are hanging off, this is your revenge, right? Because that little skinny butt running around, you finally got to hit him, he's like, wow! And you're like, fat kids. So if you finally fell off and the world's spinning, and you're like, oh, what did you say? That was fun, and let's do it again. That's why many of us didn't get COVID. We just drank out of water hoses. Just kind of, some of you put your mouth on the water hose. Where are you? Raise your hand. Be on. Ah! That's what's wrong with the world today. Why do I say all that? We were allowed to fail. Somebody asked me out here, it's like, I need to know one thing. I said, well, first of all, whether win or fail, you tell your kid you want to take them out to ice cream and don't talk about the game. We have a whole thing in the book how to do that. Don't be their coach, be their fan. And then I just said, let them fail. Do you know how many kids we have show up that are like, my kid's going to be the next Eli Manning? I don't know why I thought of him. I don't really like him. But I mean, just like whoever. And they start out going to the big 6A school and going, my kid's awesome. You want him? And they end up at some little school, but they transfer their students all the time because the fact of the matter is they're not built for that level. And you keep moving your kids so they get a really opportunity to develop. I don't care if you do that, that's fine. But honestly, DNA, when a scout comes in with a high-level program, one kid right now that's not even proven, he's just freakishly huge. If you're a huge kid, they're like, I wonder if we can develop him. It's a DNA game sometimes. So, yeah, there's different things you can do. And do the very best. One of the biggest gifts you can give your kid is to let them fail at times. So here's some things I want you to think of. One, change your mindset towards failure. It's a catalyst for growth. If you don't fail, you don't move forward. So failure is not a bad thing. Ask the hard questions that led to your failure. When they finally want to visit, we do this as coaches. Well, why did this happen? Were you at practice? How are your grades? Did you get sleep? How are you eating? There's a whole things that may have led to that moment of failure. But one of the worst things you can say in a moment of failure is this. This is the worst coaching here from the sidelines. Catch the ball. Really? Run the ball. Okay. Tackle them. Okay. Coach never if I say to you, catch the ball, the first thing a receiver says is what? I'm not going to catch the ball. A coach never looks at a player, he never says, don't fumble the ball. He'll say, squeeze it, high and tight, look it in, catch the laces. All of this is because you know failure's coming, but you don't want to put it in their head. Think about what happened, and then realize failure is a gift. Eventually, you will not be able to play. Eventually, your days will be over. And it's kind of a sad day, honest, for all of us. And maybe you could still be around the sport, but eventually you may find out, Dave, you're not built, you're a guard. I was a guard. This ain't going to go to another level. And that's all right. But if you're not used to it, and if you don't let your kids fail and bumps and bruises, they usually go to college and sit in my class and say, oh my gosh, I failed. And I'm like going, did you study? No, I never had to. I had to lecture a student the other day because they were like, well, this is happening, this is happening. I can't believe this. And I was giving them a note sheet, just fill in the blanks. And I stopped and I went, Coach Fraze, I said, how many of y'all have ever just had a note sheet and you had to fill out the blanks? And nobody raised their hands. I'm like, welcome to college. I'm not going to hold your hand. If anybody asks me one more time, what was number 2, you need to follow along right here. Put your computers up, put your phones up. Here it is. And they looked at me and went, oh. And I said, you're not in high school. I don't have to pass you. You can fail, and it'll be on you. And they're like, oh. Failure can be a gift, and it can be a catalyst. Let's look at faith real quick. One of my favorite popes, if you can have one, if I had a trading card, here it is, John Paul II. You are true athletes when you prepare yourselves not only by training your bodies, but also by constantly engaging the spiritual dimensions of your person for a harmonious development of all your talents. I still believe if you play a game well, if you go through the grit and the grind of learning how to do things well, you will learn how to live life better. How many of y'all make your bed every morning? Young people, I'm looking at you. Why do you do that? It's the first thing you accomplished. Now, I'm kind of strange. I just need to see if there's other OCD people in here with me. How many of you make your bed in a hotel? Yeah, I do it. It's what you're supposed to do, right? My wife's like, how do they know you slept in the bed? So I just reach out and go, kank. There it is. But I have to make it because it's kind of the beginning of my day. Young athletes, learn how to do that. I'm just telling you, if you learn how to make your bed, guess what? You're going to get up earlier and make it to practice on time. I don't know why the coach won't play me. Because you fail your classes and you show up 15 minutes late. And you're like, whoa, I started doing this and I actually get to be on the field. It just happens. So the small little things is wonderful. And I believe in John Paul, what he said there. Now, here's 4 things I want to share with you. We got a couple of videos. We'll land the plane. Missing church activity may be one of the greatest opportunities for spiritual growth. And then the second one, missing church activity may be a demonstration of your students' influence on peers. When I was at the Hills, we started realizing a 15% drop in our attendance on Wednesday, Gateway. All these people started having attendance because now we have so many people involved in sport. Wednesdays are no longer sacred. And if you're involved in any kind of select activity for seasons, there are also activities where you're not there on Sunday morning. So what do? So we started rethinking, okay, if we want our students to be people who are leaders, their leadership may show forth when we're actually leading on your teams or your activities. So that could be great. But understand, you don't want to forsake the assembly. You still need to be there. You need to find places. As families, if you do select stuff, you know what you could do? Maybe you steal some of these grape juice and crackers they have out here, and you just take them because everybody can take some, and you have some kind of communion service on a Sunday morning before the game starts. Faith is still important. It just takes balance, and you have to be creative. Now, I want to share 2 things. I know we've spent a lot of time. I asked 2 individuals to just talk to you. I didn't tell them what to say. I just said, if you could talk to adults and parents now that you've made it, what would you say? This first one, his name's Leighton Stone. I like showing that picture in the corner. He is one of the, I don't know how many elite players. We have 2 elite players in Texas. He's one of the top receivers in Texas. Dave Thomas, who played at Friendship, and then also he was with Indianapolis. He beat all of his records. Leighton is a pretty special young man who's now at Tech. And here's what he had to say. I did not ask for this shout out, okay? I'm just showing the video. It's kind of awkward standing up here as you hear this. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leighton Stone. I play wide receiver at Texas Tech University. And shout out to Coach Fraze. He's the best coach, one of the best coaches I've ever had, brought me closer to Christ. And everything he does and strives to be is exactly the person I needed in my life for certain stuff that I went through, and he's the best. So shout out to him real quick. Hello, parents and adults of student athletes. I would just like to say that the best thing that you can do for your student athlete is just always be supportive. There's going to be days that they come home from practice and they're going to have their head down and they're going to be mad or upset with the way that they played or performed, or the coaches yelling at them, but they need that. I needed that. The best thing that a kid could possibly have is to get yelled at by a coach. Like, you'll end up being such a better athlete from that, such a better player, such a better person in just life if you get yelled at and be able to take it. And I would just like to say that always be supportive. Like, it's a big deal to have an adult in a young man or young woman's life, to have someone to be able to be in their corner when stuff's not going right and they don't feel like they're getting the looks they deserve, or they just don't feel like they're getting everything that they've worked for. And it'll come. You reap what you sow. It says that in the Bible, and everything that's in there is the truth. So thank you for your time. I hope this does well for you all.
The next one is the number one passer in the state of Texas this last year in 6A, Holden Phillips. Holden's a baseball guy. It's his first year ever to play starting quarterback for us. Holden's an interesting guy. He's a lot like Patrick Mahomes. He's a gunslinger. He's just kind of crazy. After we played South Lake, they were surprised. They thought he was going to play football, and they're like, where's he going? I said, he's playing baseball. And Riley Dodge and that staff actually helped us as well, because he's like, this kid needs to play football. Within 2 weeks, Joey picks him up at Tech, graduates early. He gets to suit up as well. Both of those guys are over there. Super great people. Listen to what he has to say.
Hey guys, my name is Holden Phillips, and I play quarterback at Texas Tech University. Today I want to talk to the parents of student athletes about the mental effect they have on their kids during and after any game that they've played. I can speak for myself. Growing up, I was always a fear of failure. I was scared if I missed a shot, threw an interception, that I'd look up in the stands and I just see my dad angry at me or disappointed. And that's not a way to have fun. Like, if I didn't have success, my parents were going to be disappointed in me over a game. And I know that's a lot of mindsets in a lot of kids these days. And that's not a way to play. Sports supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be just be getting away from the stress of the world. And I just want to talk about 2 ways to ensure that you're not putting extra pressure on your kid. Number 1 is don't push your goal onto your kid if it's not theirs. Kids have their own dreams. Kids have their own goals in life, and you just got to support them by that. The second one is I just want you to be supportive, good and bad, of the outcomes of what happens in their games. I know that was a big part for me when my parents became very supportive, even after bad games, so many bad games, that they were just there for loving me. It just made me feel better, because nobody's harder on themselves than the athlete. So the last thing they really need is another person yelling at them or telling them what they did wrong. But yep, thank you for y'all's time.
Sure. Again, I didn't tell him what to say, but it's funny how it falls in line. And I do know his family. Leighton's dad is the soccer coach for Tech. You would never think he's in the audience. You know, Holden's mom and dad, his big brother played quarterback, but he just blows up the tunnel and sits there and loves on his kid. And they go to the next level because they have coaches. It's pretty amazing to see. Now, this picture is unique for a couple of reasons. As a coach, I want you to notice everybody's eyes, even the principal's off his phone. It was the moment last year where we had scored, this is crazy, 14 points in 9 seconds against Permian. And, of course, they came back. And they got so upset we beat them. My wife was watching the game from Lubbock. She couldn't come. And Ector County is interviewing our coach. It's their media, and the lights just go dark. It's just like they get out of our stadium. So it's kind of fun. Every eye, equipment manager, everyone, head coaches on this side. You see Holden. That's Chase Campbell. You'll probably see him on Sunday. He's a 5-star. He's going to be a senior next year. He's an incredible young man as well. But it's not necessarily about the play. We talk about the idea that if you're on the field, off the field, all 4 phases, offense, defense, specials, and sideline, can we just do this? And it makes a difference in our culture and our team. And it takes me back to Deuteronomy chapter 6. that as a community, sport's a sport, it's just what we do. It's not who we are. What if we, as a community, instead of saying, man, I saw this and blah, 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 but every kid, you know their name, not just what they do on a field, not just what they do in theater, but you know them and you know their name, and they're brought into a fellowship, and everybody is focused, young and old, whether you're the parents or not, or whether you're the coach, whoever, the adults are focused, everyone on that kid, so they can see God in us. That would be the great corrector of our idolatry over sports. Would you agree? Sports is what we do. It's not who we are. We are children of God, and that's eternal. Let's pray. Father, thank you for giving us the gift of sport and competition. Father, I pray that we will use that to your glory. Father, that people will know that we're different in the way that we play, the way that we coach, the way that we cheer, the way that we are in the stands, the way that we deal with our anger, the way that we communicate with others about these issues. Father, would you let us turn our eyes constantly towards your mountain and not towards the things that are comfortable to worship. So Jesus, we all say, amen.